I have here the Blackmagic Design Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. What I want to do is do a quick menu walkthrough. Well, maybe not so quick. We'll see how long-winded I am. We'll do a menu walkthrough, and I'll show you the various settings that are offered, as well as the settings I like to use this camera as a filmmaking tool. So let's first cover the settings that we have right across the top and bottom of the screen here, right on the main screen, this basic overlay. So first we have zebra mode, toggle that on or off. That tells you if you're approaching high brightness on the screen. So we've got that on. I've got it to 100%. Let's turn our f-stop up and our ISO up. And we've got some zebra here. So I usually like to have that at about 90%. See, major zebra now. Let's get back to a normal range here. And move on. So next we have focus peaking. Let's turn it on high. This will show us when we're in focus, and I have it set to a red outline. The subject that is in focus will have a red tracing to it. Let's move on to lower thirds, or I'm sorry, not lower thirds, but aspect ratio guide. So you'll see the black bars at the top and bottom kind of crop in depending on how far out we are. So you've got basic choices for 1:1, 4:3, 16:9, 185, 2:1, 235, 239, 240, 241. So I keep mine at 239. Again, it's really just a matter of what aspect ratio you want to shoot at. So moving on, I keep that on though. Moving on, you have choices for the grid layout. So I keep that on. I like to shoot with that so I can kind of adhere to the lower the rule of thirds. You also then have choices for a center crosshair. So you have one that's called horizon, one called crosshair, one called dot. I think I'll keep dot on. You can also just have it off. Oops, I clicked off accidentally. Next we have our choice for safe area. You have a little guide box for the area in which you want to shoot within. I don't usually use that. Finally we have false color, and that shows you how exposed your image is. Pinks and light grays and greens are pretty good. If you get into the blues and the blacks, that's you're too dark, and into the yellows and reds, too bright. This thing has amazing dynamic range though. Even if you go crazy with it sometimes, it still tells you that you're pretty decently exposed. So let's continue on. Frame rate. Now here we can turn off speed on or off. We'll get to that later, but right here you have your general project settings all the way up to 60 frames a second, all the way down to 23.98. I keep mine at 24. And again, you can turn off speed on if you want to shoot at a little bit higher or possibly even lower frame rate. I don't really use that. I typically, if I'm going to set up off speed, I do it deeper into the menus. And we'll get into that more later, and even more on a later video, I think. Shutter speed, let's go to that. I just keep it at 180, but you can also have 90, 360, and click on to auto expose. With that you have choices for shutter, shutter and iris, or iris and shutter. And you can see it was automatically changing here at the top here, but I want to keep that off. Oops. Turn that off and just stay at 180. Now iris, this is just a lens function. So you can automatically set, or you can auto set the iris, or you can pull this up and set it yourself. Doesn't work if you have a manual lens, but that should be expected. Next here we have time code. This is always running, even when I hit it like that. It's just I'm not seeing it. but you'll see it'll keep running. See, it's on 15 seconds. I think it was on 16 or 17 then when I clicked off. Now that we're on 21, 22. So it just keeps going. Great for syncing up your audio and video. ISO settings. You have some presets. Natives are 400, 3200, and you can pull the dial here. Get it as bright or as unlit as you want. White balance choices, you got some presets, standard presets, like your sunny day, indoor incandescent, fluorescent, in the shade, in the cloud, overcast more so, dialed in, Kelvin value, and custom white balance. That's custom white. Got my clapboard here. It's a mustache on it there. Let me hit the focus in so we can focus in on it. I'm not crazy about... Oh, well, it won't let me right now. Not crazy at the way this thing focuses. Whoa. Gotta tighten this guy down a little more. I don't know what happened there. Okay, focus though. This is this button at the side. Let's see if I can get that. Yeah. Button right here, focus. It kind of hunts. And also this button here does the auto iris. I typically like to do it manual. So let's continue on. Where were we? We were doing white balance. Tint, you can adjust the tint. I typically don't though. Next, after tint, have our battery level. And I swear I'm running on a Canon LP battery right now. It's telling me it's at 45%. I could have sworn this was 100 a few minutes ago. As everyone has noted, these batteries die pretty quickly. So not too much of a surprise there. Just you wish it would last longer is all. So let's get off of that. Let's hope this battery lasts this whole review. At the bottom here we have our histogram, record button, card info. See here where it says we're recording externally to a Samsung T5. How much time we have left, how many gigs used, all that stuff. You can format the card too. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Then we also have our audio bars in the green, the yellow, and the red, telling you if you're clipping too far when you're in the red. You can turn up the gain on the audio. Also turn up the playback volume. I keep those around 50. So that's all the main area settings. Let's go deeper into the menu with the menu button there. And let's look at our record settings. Let's back out. Okay. Choices are Blackmagic Raw and ProRes. B-Raw, Blackmagic Raw, the best quality that you're going to get. Also the highest file sizes. However, you can choose the constant bitrate and 12:1 for a little bit lower file sizes. Constant bitrate, as the name implies, the data is flowing at a constant bitrate. However, if in between frames there's a lot of dynamic changes, specifically like what's going on in the frame, the best example I always give is confetti or like a snowstorm. The bitrate stays the same, and it won't adjust to what may be going on in front of on the sensor or going on in the scene. If there is a lot of commotion or a lot of confetti or what have you going on, you'd want to do constant quality. That way the actual quality of the image will adjust depending on what's happening frame to frame if there's a lot of changes. Q0 will give you the best quality. Q5 will be a little bit more compressed. As always with the trade-off, it's quality or file size. For even smaller file sizes, you can do ProRes. Again, at its various qualities, HQ, 422, Light or LT, and Proxy. When shooting in ProRes, you'll see some areas are grayed out, so you can either shoot the 4K full sensor Ultra HD or HD. With B-RAW, you can shoot all the settings here. See, this is different from the Pocket 6K, which you have limitations for either resolution size if you're picking RAW or ProRes. RAW can only shoot certain resolutions. ProRes can only shoot certain resolutions on that one. On this one, at least under B-RAW, you can shoot all the different resolution options. So I like to shoot at constant bitrate, 12:1, unless I know there's a lot of changes going on, a lot of different things happening on screen. Then I'll shoot cube 0. But constant bitrate, 12:1, and I'll shoot with the full sensor. Well, let's arrow over to the next screen here. So we have our options for the dynamic range. Dynamic range options include video, extended video. My one problem here, sometimes I'll hit the wrong thing. Record, video, extended video, and film. I shoot in film. Film gives you a wide latitude for color, for dynamic range. Video and extended video are a little bit more limited. Video especially. Video means that the images are ready to go right out of the camera. It's all compressed down, ready to deliver. Film gives you that latitude so you can mess around with it in post, and that's probably one of my favorite things to do. That's why I would get a Blackmagic camera, is for their excellent color science, their excellent dynamic range, and the ability to manipulate the image in post. And when shooting in B-RAW, gives you even more latitude. So really great camera for doing that kind of thing. You can choose, depending on what resolution settings you're in, the frame sensor area, which pretty much means, the best examples with HD, which pretty much means how the frame is cropping in. So with HD, if we're shooting on 1920 by 1080 resolution and we have the HD sensor area, let's back out, you'll see it's cropped in pretty closely. Let's go back, switch it to the 4K sensor area. You can see a lot more of the stack of Tetris blocks there. Additionally, with particularly shooting HD or at any different codec, it will give you different options for slow-mo. And here's frame rate, just regular project frame rate, like we were messing around with earlier on the main screen. But then you can turn on off speed and toggle down, arrow down, really low or really high to 60 frames a second. So let's try and do as fast a slow motion as we can, or as many frames within a second in slow motion we can with this one here. So we want to be at 24 frames a second, off speed, HD cropped in area, and arrow all the way up to 120 should be the cutoff. Almost there. I knew I was going to go over. I was trying to go slow. There we are. So 120. That's the ideal settings for the slowest slow motion setting. If you want to shoot at higher resolutions and slow-mo, typically with B-RAW, I think you're going to be stuck at about 60 frames a second. Yeah, 60 frames, which is awesome. Just depends on what kind of slow motion you want. If you want the slowest movements, or you want the best resolution. All up to you. Finally, on the screen here, we have our record options. We want to select that we're recording to an external drive because that's what we have. You can also select the card that you want to record to. You can select to choose the fullest card on. And then you can also have here to toggle on or off if you want to stop recording if a frame is dropped. So I do keep that on because I don't want to drop any frames. Let's move on here, arrow over finally to this final screen on the record section. Time-lapse function. I haven't really done much time-lapse, but it's very cool. You can set the time intervals for which every time you want to capture one frame. Detail sharpening. This is an option that you're given if you're shooting in ProRes. detail sharpening, then you can set that. I would not add that. I would do that in post. Again, like I said, I like to mess around with this stuff in post. And finally, you can apply a clip. This will bake in, I'm sorry, apply a LUT to the clip. This is going to bake in the LUT onto your clip, so you're not going to have that latitude. But if you want to add that look, hand it off to somebody for them to just edit if it's a fast turnaround time or the client just wants it to look the way it's going to look, you can do that. That's a great option. Give it that look very easily. But with LUTs, you're kind of setting, it's kind of a general overall paint that you're adding. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't quite, and that's why it's always nice to color grade it and adjust things accordingly to whatever's going on in the scene and how it was recorded. But yeah, LUTs can often give you good color output, and it all depends. Let's move over now to our monitor settings. This is what you see on the screen, kind of like the grid lines, things like that we're doing, and here's our options for that. So you can choose what you're seeing on your LCD, HDMI, and both. LCD and HDMI have the same options. You can just choose what sees what. So you can choose clean feed, display the LUT, zebras on or off. This is all the stuff that we went through before. Focus assist, frame guide, grid, safe guide, false color. You get some more options. You'll have those same options, HDMI. You get some more options here on both. So you can choose the frame guide, or as I call it, the aspect ratio, the opacity of that guide. So if you turn it up to 100%, it's 25% intervals there. If you turn it up to 100%, you get the stark black lines, kind of like you're literally seeing it like it's a movie. We turn it down, they're more opaque. You can still see what's going on behind those lines. So you can see it behind the grade shadowy line there. I'll just keep it at 50. Now you have your focus assist settings. You've got peak and you've got colored lines. I really don't use peak. Oops, I think I just hit the mic. So you got the peak setting, and colored lines is more helpful in my opinion. Now we can see some red lines around the outside of the Tetris blocks. I choose red, but you can also choose green, blue, white, black. I would use one of the colorful ones, red, green, or blue. I guess depending on what you're outlining. If it's something that's red, you obviously don't want to outline it in red. Then you can have your focus assist levels. I like it on high. And your zebra levels, which you can mess on the main screen before, but again, keep mine around 90. Other monitor settings, got your grid and lower third settings, your crosshairs, your safe guide area, and you can turn on anamorphic squeeze here, or D-squeeze rather, and that's a 1.33 D-squeeze. So it would be good to have a lens that's a 1.33 anamorphic squeeze lens. Let's move over to audio settings. Here you can adjust the headphone volume, the speaker volume, and then also turn on phantom power if you have a phantom power mic plugged in. It's grayed out right now because I don't even have anything plugged in. Next you have your audio meter settings. You can have ppm, -20, dBFS, and -18. Next, let's go to the setup. You can set the date and time, your language settings, switch your shutter angle settings. You can also do shutter speed. I would do shutter angle personally. Then your flicker settings. This is for if you're recording computer screens, TV screens. They have a refresh rate, and depending on what rate they're at, if you have 50 or 60, you'll be in sync with them, so it's not this weird flickery motion. Image stabilization, you can toggle that on or off. I think I'll toggle that off actually. And time code drop frame, I'll keep that off. Next we have our preset setup settings. Preset setup settings, why not? So here is where you can set the function settings that are the 3 buttons right across the top. So you have F1, F2, F3. How I set them is, I click the F1, I click toggle, and then I select what I want to assign to it. I like to assign false color to 1, display LUT to 2, and frame guides on and off to 3. What's another good one there? Focus assist. Yeah, that would be nice to turn on and off. False color, zebra, grid, safe guide. Off speed recording, I wouldn't really mess with that. iOS maybe, or OIS. Maybe that would be a good one to turn on and off. It all depends on what you want display LUT. Yeah, let me turn back to... Yeah, let's just put it on grid. Okay, let's move on here. Also, you have preset settings. Which I haven't really played with those. I just mess with the toggle. Tally LED light, turn that on or off. I'll turn that off. LED brightness, set that. Hardware ID, software ID, playback settings if you want to see all clips or a single clip. Let's arrow over again. Bluetooth connection. I think I'll do a whole nother video on Bluetooth. Yeah, you can choose your connectivity there. Reset camera settings, remap pixels, or calibrate monitor sensor. So I don't want to do any of that, but you've got those options right now. And that's it for setup. Presets, here you can create your own presets. So everything we have the camera set up for now, let's make that film 1 and update. So there we go, you can have that set up, make some other changes, then make a film 2 and get your camera all set up and ready to go for whatever certain situations you'll be shooting in. You can import or export these settings as well, change them and refresh them, all that good stuff. Finally here we have the LUTs. Here's some internal LUTs already. We've got the 4K film to extended video, Pocket 4K film to Rec 2020 hybrid log gamma, Pocket 4K film to Rec 2020 PQ gamma, and finally Pocket 4K film to video. Then you can add your own LUTs in, import, or even export. So you can then bake in those LUT images like we were talking about before, or just have these as viewable LUTs so you can toggle them on or off, as we mentioned with the function settings, and see how it's going to look, an idea of how it's going to look once it's color graded, which I think is awesome. So there we go. Those are all the menu settings for the Blackmagic Design Pocket Cinema 4K. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope this was informative for you. If I missed anything or got anything possibly wrong, let me know in the comments. You know, I'll add any changes or address anything that people might want to know more about. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel. It would really help me out. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.